excited today, and I know that we're all meeting here virtually, but Lori-Anne Biebuyck is probably about 3 houses away from me. So it's really quite interesting to be able to sit in a Zoom meeting and be able to talk to her. But I was so excited when she said yes, you know, she'd be happy to be interviewed. Thank you so much, Lori-Anne. I know that you're someone who's normally interviewed by many more famous people than us at Out of Box Thinking. And Lori has been on the radio, she has been on TV, she has been on all of these famous places. But I think the reason why we're meeting up today and why you were happy to join this platform, Lori, is based on something you were actually sharing with a group of us the other day that really struck me around how you were talking about vulnerability. And I thought, wow, you know, in our world of work, we're so used to building careers around what our strengths are. And we hone our strengths and we study more about them and we do all of this to try and make sure that we really maximize those so that we're successful in our careers. And then if I look at someone like you, I can see how you started off that way. But then life happened and things changed. And you've actually, you know, I want you to tell the story, but you've really shared with us about how your career has become so meaningful and so purposeful and is so successful. But it's built on the thing that you never thought it would be built on, which is vulnerability. So Lori, I know you're known as a breast cancer warrior, and you are a business owner of Bold and Beautiful Hats by Lori, as we can see from your screen. But there's so much more, and I feel that it would take away from your story if I was to share it. So please do jump right in. Please tell us your story, your history of where you started and how you came to start the business that you're in. And thank you once again for joining us. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thanks for having me. So obviously I am a biomedical technologist, studied that, did it for 7 years, then obviously didn't enjoy it, then did repping, then stayed home for a while due to personal reasons. Then I was a patient educator for dialysis patients, and then I stayed home again. So fulfillment in my career I've never had. I think I've always been somebody who gets bored. After school I studied because my mom said I needed to study. Worked in the laboratory, didn't find it fulfilling, did repping, enjoyed it a lot. 7 years later, it became very mundane and I thought, I can't do this anymore. And then obviously as life happened and I've been to this, done this and I've done that. My dad got sick in 2017. He got cancer. After he died, exactly a month and a half later, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, which was not a great diagnosis to receive because I've just buried my dad who had stage 4 lung cancer. And the statistics out there is that you only get treated palliatively till you die. So that was what I had. That was what the doctor told me. So started my chemotherapy like everybody would. But I think what happened is when you in cancer treatment and you're one of the ones that are going to lose your hair, it is a bit of a thing. So I started using scarves to cover my head. And then one day, as a creative kind of person, because I love trying out things, see if I can master it, and then I normally move on from it. Because as soon as I can do it, I feel like, okay, let's get something else. So with a friend, I went and bought some material and thought, let me see if I can make a hat. Made a hat, went on. First of all, I went online and I Googled chemo headwear in South Africa and I couldn't find anything. So lots of overseas stuff popped up from Wish and Shane, you know, all those dodgy online shops, and also overseas. So you need to import it. It's a big thing. And I needed it ASAP because you don't think about investigating headgear before you lose your hair. You're too much in shock. So long story short, made a hat, took the hat, and I decided, let me go into the streets. And yeah, the response was great. People actually stopped me on that first day and asked me, where did you get this hat? We love it. So during my treatment with chemotherapy, during my radiation, so basically throughout 2019, I made hats for my chemotherapy room. So all the people that were sitting with me, that because you become a community that lost their hair, I would give them hats. And then started a journal on Facebook under the name Bold and Beautiful. And it was basically just to journal my own story, not for anything more than that. But somehow, I don't know how, people latched onto this page and eventually asked me, where do I buy these hats? And I said, no, I make them. And that's how people started ordering hats through Messenger and WhatsApp. So for the whole year, while I was sick, never had time to be sick, I was making hats and donating hats to all the chemotherapy rooms in the Western Cape at that time. And then at the end of 2019, I just couldn't anymore. I don't think I ever had time to accept my disease and what has been going on. And then I realized after all my treatment that I only had a 2% chance of being cancer-free. And after my double mastectomy, my doctor came to me and he said to me, Lori-Anne, you've had a complete pathological response, which means that you are cancer-free. So it was a complete, I was one of the 2%. But I think, you know, when you're one of the 2%, it's 100% for you if you're cancer-free. So in that year, I never had time to really live my life as a cancer patient because I was constantly just working. And then in 2019, I said to my sister, listen, you are going to have to help me or I am going to stop this. So from there, we started a website, we started an online shop. And yes, it's growing every day. I'm super blessed, and it's never realized that it was a need. And I was thinking the other day, you know what? I'm not the only breast cancer patient that's lost hair ever in how many years of breast cancer, you know? And how come I'm the only one that thought of making hats and selling them? So yes, I've got an online shop and I sell hats and breast cancer memorabilia to people online. And that's my nutshell.
Oh, thank you, Lori. I really appreciate you sharing that. And that's such a difficult journey. And as you say, I mean, it's just having lost your dad and then being diagnosed yourself. And that's an amazing statistic that there's just 2% of people who survive what you've had. And here you are feeling 100% cancer-free. And I know that you still, keep checking and you keep working with it. And you've brought such courage to so many people. As you say, it's the bold and beautiful. And I love that name because it really, it does resonate with the bold and beautiful and helping bold people feel bold, because often that does lose confidence for people. So, it's amazing what you do. But Lori-Anne, why do you say that it's something that's been built around your vulnerability and not your strength? I mean, I know you're someone who's incredibly creative. So I don't think coming up with a beautiful hat design is a weakness of yours. But tell us more about the vulnerability part.
I think the vulnerability part is obviously I've got a huge group of people that I talk to often, and a lot of women don't actually want people to know that they've got breast cancer. They'll wear wigs, they won't even take time off, or they take time off, they'll take a sabbatical, but they are very quiet about it. So when you want to know something about breast cancer, it's like you can't get anybody to talk to because nobody wants to come forward with it. I think, so what happened with the Bold and Beautiful page I initially started with, I also only started sharing the hats. And then gradually seeing all the movement on my page and how people, kept asking questions and me making videos on how I feel, how hard it's been, I've got to go for a scan. So all the fear, all the realness, being authentic, sharing exactly what I feel, I mean, if I cry in the video, I cry. If I smile, I smile. So just being completely authentic and not missing a video. So I never used to do like a video and then I say, oh, something's not right here, let me redo it. I used to just do it and post it. And if it came out great, and if not, so it wasn't just me being really raw. So I think sharing the pain, the heartache, that part is not really me. I've had lots of things happening in my life. I am 53, so I've gone through a bit of a few things. So I never used to share that publicly, or, people wouldn't know. So one would go on with life and you would sort of just smile and move forward. And I think it's the one thing where I somehow, still don't know why, decided just to be, this is me. This is breast cancer. This is how bad it is. And yeah, it somehow is, I don't know what people want now to hear. But yeah, it wasn't really what I would consider, or I wouldn't call myself being a very vulnerable person to others, although I was sharing all my history stories with unknown people. But I think there's a lot of relatability in what I'm going through, and somehow people are finding it helpful.
No, they definitely do. I mean, as you say, you can see from the response. And you talked about how you shared things on Facebook, and then there must have been a need because people just started engaging with it and it started growing. And I know that since our pandemic, people have said, okay, we're realizing that what people want is authenticity, and people want vulnerability, and it actually inspires people. And maybe it always did, and we just never knew that until the pandemic came along and we realized, wow, authenticity and vulnerability is actually really attractive. But I think, you mentioned that it's not something you would have done before. So I'm imagining you in your repping days, because repping is all about looking good, sounding. And you were really good at that. It's not like your repping days weren't successful.
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it a lot. I think what happens when you in a corporate environment, or whether you're working with people, is that when you're having a low day, bad day, hard day, you can't carry that on your sleeve walking into the doctor and you want to promote your stuff. You actually need to, you need to be selfless in that area. You've got to help the doctor. So I think in that, fake it. You must fake it till you get through this whole session. So some of those days weren't easy. So I probably wouldn't have wanted to share all my stuff with the doctor. But all I'm saying, it takes a lot of energy to stay upbeat when you're not feeling good. Whereas with the platform that I've got now, I don't have to fake it. If I'm having a bad day, because during the whole thing with breast cancer, I also got rheumatoid arthritis, chronic pain. So somehow what I'm going through and all the issues I have, everybody out there has got something that they sort of feel they can relate with, because you can put it in a big box of, we all have stuff, we all have aches, we all have pains, we all have chronic disease. So I think it covers a big platform, even though it's carried on breast cancer and my RA.
Yeah, and I mean so it's true what you say, and I think there's also got to be a space to be able to be vulnerable, but people do need it, people do want it, people are inspired by it. And I think it's amazing that you're saying you've been able to find yourself in a place now where your work is something that enables you to be yourself. You really can show up as you. And that's what people want. I think there's a lot of burnout and a lot of people today who are unhappy in their careers because they're, as you say, faking it till they make it, pushing it. And there is no relief for that. So perhaps that's part of our great resignation that we've seen also globally, where people are resigning because they want meaning, they want purpose in their work, they want to be able to be themselves. So Lori, I mean, those years back when you were choosing a career and choosing a kind of business to own, I mean, it almost sounds funny, like, wow, you know, there's this really successful business that's been born out of something that was traumatic and difficult. Would you have imagined yourself doing this those years back? No, and why not?
No, I think I've got a lazy character because it's hard work to own a business and be got to do everything. But around the online shop, you've got to sort out the website, you've got to look after the customers, you've got to look after the couriers. So it's a lot of admin, and I am not good at admin, not at all. So yeah, that wouldn't have worked in the past because I've got that laziness. I'm a good team player, very good team player. But being on, standing at the head of something was not really my thing. I think what makes it easier for me is that I love what I do. I'm making the hats. I love producing it. I love sourcing new things. That's great. So I enjoy it. And then I've got my sister on board, who's more the OCD one, who's on the admin, looks after the accounts and all of that. So, but 10 years ago, I don't think this would have been me at all, because it sounds like a lot of work.
Right, exactly. And I was speaking to a company about this the other day where they were saying, we want to attract people to our business so we can paint the rosy picture of all the wonderful things that we do and are, but we don't know how to share the challenging parts and still attract people. And I think what you're sharing now is there's parts that you enjoy, there's parts you don't enjoy, and you're a good team player and you've managed to find somebody and people who can complement the bits you don't like. But at the end of the day, you've shared that you're typically someone who does something for a bit, gets bored, and then gives up and moves on to the next thing. And what you're saying now is that the meaning and the purpose behind what you do, that it's something beyond just you. It's beyond self-fulfillment. It's seeing the impact that this has on other people. When you share that, that's what I pick up. I pick up that it's the extension of giving gifts beyond yourself and seeing what it does for the world that can keep you going in something that would have just maybe been a job before.
Definitely. I mean, daily, obviously, I get people find my number everywhere. I don't publicly post it on Facebook, but they sort of wing it. I don't know. They've got all the platforms that they probably investigate, and then they do get hold of me. So lots of people, what I find is it's like being relatable. I find that people that go through cancer, when you've got your best friend and your husband with you and your children, if you've got children, they cannot grasp what you're going through. So what women do, or I suppose all cancer people do, I mean, I actually experienced it with my dad, is that they don't want to see how tough it is. So they actually also fake it the whole time. No, I'm okay. I'm fine. No, it's not too bad. No, I'm not too nauseous, all those kind of things. But actually, it is really hard. So with me, I find they can be just real. So they'll send me a message and say, hi, I've been diagnosed with cancer. I'm so scared. I don't know what to expect. So then I can just, I can't fix it, but I can relate in a way that, it's like walking in somebody else's shoes. That kind of scenario probably makes it just more real for them to communicate with me. So I do a lot of that as well, where I try and help people to just be okay. We don't know what the outcome is going to be, but let's just take it day by day. And if you can't, take it hour by hour. So often in the beginning, I've got lots of people. So it's always a voice note and checking in and chatting. Can I? And lots of people will ask me, can you phone my friend? She's just been diagnosed with cancer. Then I phone. I mean, I don't know you, but anyways, I can just share my story. And I find that it obviously makes them, it's easier for them then to just somehow breathe and go on. So yes, I feel that my vulnerability has definitely given me an amazing business. But this is also my lemonade journey. I often say to people, you know what? So I got those lemons and this is my lemonade journey. So I am giving people hope, especially women, by wearing that hat. the hardest part when you lose your hair is that you are so noticeable. It's not like you can hide. So if people choose to wear a wig, you probably won't know. But it's when you wear my hat, obviously the hat is beautiful and it attracts people's attention. And then the people compliment you and say, but you look so beautiful. And we love what you're wearing. And that sort of lifts somebody's spirit just to, for one compliment, be able to feel good about yourself. Because it does take a big toll on you when you lose your hair, your eyebrows, your eyelashes. You know, you look in the mirror, you look terrible when you don't have your hat on. And it makes it real, because breast cancer is not always, you don't always feel bad. But believe you me, when you look in the mirror and you see you have no hair, I think that part used to be the worst for me. Checking the mirror and seeing hair, feeling great actually, but realizing, you know, there's definitely something wrong. So yes, the whole scenario of being able to have a meaning in my life, because I think we all go through a stage where you think there's got to be something more to life than just working and just living and just, you know, enjoying life. And I mean, it took me up to 49 to be diagnosed with cancer, also still not realizing it. And I always say to people now, and we often as breast cancer patients speak about this, is that our lives have got so much meaning after you've had sort of a brush with death. You don't fret the small stuff. You don't, you know, it's like the psychologists that I see will often say to me, if you loved yourself now, what would you do? What would you do if you love yourself now? And that's exactly what I do every single day, is to live that meaning and make sure that, I leave a legacy behind, because, it was given to me. And I think it would be a failed opportunity if I didn't do something with it.
Wow, Laurie, that's so, I think what you've shared just now, there's so much in there. And I'm sure it's triggered hearts and, you know, of everybody in this room and everyone who will listen afterwards. And, you know, we talked about how with the pandemic, people have come out of that looking for meaning and purpose in a way that they didn't before. And you mentioned that kind of brush with death and how that brings life in a way and makes us think, no, I've been given this life. I don't want it to be a failed opportunity that I didn't use what I had to make a difference. Because a lot of people, as we know, were faced with loss, either had their own brush with death during the pandemic or lost people very close to them that made them think about that. And you're saying that you had to go through a lot to eventually get there at 49, and it took you getting cancer yourself to really do something that's been so successful, but born out of meaning and purpose, and something that if you look back, you think, wow, this is actually what I was born for. So Laurie, what about the people who are listening right now and who are thinking, sure, you know, I want to live a career that is meaningful and purposeful, but I don't want to wait until, you know, my own brush with death, perhaps, for that to be the catalyst. So if you could give any advice to people who want to perhaps make a career change or do something different, or reassess their lives or their careers, what advice would you give? I mean, because yours has been brought out of something that you say wasn't your strength before. In fact, you shunned vulnerability. Everything about you was, you know, the wonderful image that you do have and that you did have then. So yeah, any advice for people in that situation or thinking those things?
I think fear will probably keep people from doing it, because if you are you're the one that's creating the income, I think it must be hard to take a risk and dive into something that you want to do, but you're not sure it's going to happen. So I think one will probably have to do something parallel for a while, because you know what, I know of lots of people who start a business and it takes a while. I mean, my business didn't grow in 1 year to such an extent that I could earn a living to look after everything at home. So it's a gradual process to get there. Yeah, so the advice, I'm trying to think what would be a good idea, but I think obviously initially one will have to probably try something parallel to what you're doing now, if there's time, because that's also going to take a lot of time. Otherwise, if you've got the capital, I suppose you must just resign the one and get into the other one. But it is a time-consuming process. I'm on year 3 now, and yes, I can say we're doing very, very well. So I don't have pearls of wisdom for that one.
No, those are pearls of wisdom. I think what you said, firstly, the fear, that's huge. And again, sometimes it's that kind of brush with death that makes us think, sure, what am I really fearing? What do I fear more in this life? Living, something that's comfortable, or living something that's not so comfortable. I take a risk, but I don't have regrets. And I think your advice on doing something in parallel is so wise, because I've seen, in my career, obviously in recruitment for over 25 years, I've seen so many people jump ship and they're not ready and they can't afford it. And that really hurts people as well. So that's just really good advice to say, if you really want to do something and you feel that that's what you were designed for, build it on the side until you're ready to step over. So thank you very much for that. Lori, I definitely want to open it up to our group to ask questions or share things. So I just want to thank you again so much for sharing your life and sharing your journey with us. It's so inspirational. And I know you hear that all of the time, but it really does make a difference. And it is inspiring to see somebody be courageous, because that gives other people courage. So thank you. And if people want to connect with you, I know you're on Instagram a lot, you're on Facebook a lot, and Hats by Lori, they can go to. Any other place that you frequent that I don't know about that people can connect with you?
That's where I'm at. I'm not on LinkedIn, unfortunately.
That's okay.
So and then obviously my website is there for people to order online with. And those are the platforms that you've just mentioned.
Yeah, but love it, Lori. Thank you so much. And I know that your hats are actually so beautiful. People who haven't lost their hair want to also buy your hats. It's really grown tremendously.